Hey, welcome to your local fast food chain. Can I take your order?
Yeah, can I get a double cheeseburger, large fries, some tots, and I guess a diet soda?
Hi, it's Sav and Jess. Welcome to And a Diet Soda, an opportunity for people to celebrate their successes, share their failures, and hopefully give a little advice on all things relatable along the way.
This community is for appreciating the little things and fostering positive mindsets and intuitive thoughts by talking to people, because chances are they've been through it too.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Sav.
And I'm Jess, and welcome to And a Diet Soda, Episode 8, Mom Life.
In honor of Mother's Day, we're doing an episode dedicated to all of the amazing moms out there just absolutely killing it. We'll be discussing the beautiful and rewarding moments of being a mom, but we're also going to discuss some real talk on those more difficult topics like postpartum and the chaos of juggling full-time school, a full-time job, and full-time motherhood. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, for real. So I am so excited about today's episode. The beautiful Karissa Lederman is my amazing sister-in-law, the best sister-in-law I could ever ask for. And not only because she's so kind and so sweet, but she is out there doing the damn thing. She is getting her master's in social work. She's working full-time as a financial education teacher. She's a dog mom, an athlete, and just killing it as a mom to the most beautiful baby girl I have ever seen. Maybe I'm biased, I don't know. But I'm so excited to get into it today. I think you're such a kind, such a relatable and wonderful human. So without further ado, why don't you start by telling us about all the things that you do, about your 3 full-time jobs and how you schedule your time.
Wow, thank you. That was such an introduction. Like, I feel so special now.
You should.
Okay, so like Jessica mentioned, I am going for my MSW. So I work as a full-time financial advisor for a nonprofit with youth ages 14 to 22. And in my free time, I try to fit in a little fitness, healthy eating. I am a mom to an almost 2-year-old girl. And through all of that, I'm also a police wife. So I'm juggling my husband's crazy hours and schedule and just trying to fit it all in with 2 little rescue dogs in the mix.
So when and how does one decide to take on school while doing all of that? Like I applaud you. It's amazing. Jess and I both love education in school, but it's amazing that you've been able to do that. So what brought you to that decision?
So before I got pregnant, I did get accepted into the program. And then I got pregnant and was like, oh, wow. So I deferred for a year, which was actually really great in the long run because I found another college that was really able to work with me a little bit better in my schedule and being a mom. So I do weekend classes and I do every other weekend. And basically my whole Saturdays and Sundays, like classes are from 9 to 4. And you just hang out in the classroom and jam as much as you can. And then they give you a ton of assignments and papers, then studying on your off week and off weekend. But it was mostly like I knew I wanted to do this. And it was just kind of like, all right, I got to figure out a way to do it with a child in the mix. So having that year to kind of research other schools really did help me figure it out and find a better program that was like more forgiving.
You said it, just do the damn thing. Like you got accepted, life happens, you got pregnant, but you're like, I'm going to do it anyway. That's just what's going to happen. So you always, I know you talk to like Alex's, my little brother's girlfriend, a lot about this and finding your path and giving people advice. Like you're so good at giving people advice on where to go with their life and what they want to do. And so I know that you haven't always been, this hasn't always been the path that you have always wanted to take. So how did that kind of morph through the years? How did your goals change and your like 5-year, 10-year plan change as like through pregnancy, through marriage, and through all these different jobs that you've had?
Yeah, so that's a great point, Jess. So getting my undergrad, it took me longer than normal to get my undergrad and at a slower pace. And I was working full time, had my own apartment while I was also going to school for my undergrad. And I took some years off, like free years, and didn't really know what I wanted to do. But at the end of the day, ended up having the most credits in teaching. So I decided I'm just going to get my degree and get it over with and just have a teaching degree and see where that leads me. And then I sold like medical supplies for a little while, and it was just like horrible. I hated my job. It was the longest 6 months of my life. And then I found the job that I'm currently at, which is teaching youth, like inner city youth, about financial and credit and just how to set themselves up in the financial world, and was able to kind of take my past experiences with like credit cards and debt and living on my own and getting my own car through a dealership, and I add that into my curriculum. So through this job that I'm at currently now, I've been there for almost 3 years, I kind of realized that I really am passionate, not so much about teaching, but more so helping youth kind of figure out what they want to do with their life, where they want to be, helping them get through some hard places in their life. So that's kind of where I landed on social work and was like, looked more into it and kind of was like, yeah, this is where I'm meant to be, which I think is what kind of goes with the fact that I just said, I'm going to do this. Like, even though I'm pregnant, even though I'm mom, I'm just going to figure this out and do it. Because at the end of the day, even though you're a mom and a wife, you got to do stuff that makes yourself happy. And the way I look at it is, my end goal is to be a school social worker. So being in a school system, having those school hours, I'll eventually have the same hours as my daughter. So I'll be able to spend summers with her. And so right now, the sacrifice is kind of going to be worth it in the long run.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, you definitely have your priorities very clear and what you want as your end goal, which is awesome. I want to go back to, I totally forgot about that like weird 6-month period when you worked selling, what was it like? It was like pills, right? For men. And so,
so it was basically like Viagra. And
yeah.
it was when they hired me, I had no idea I was going to be selling Viagra pills, or I probably would have guessed that hiring process and like going for it. So they just basically said, like, you're going to be selling a wide variety of different pills for the medical field. And I was like, oh, okay, I can do this. Like, I'm good at talking to people. And
It's so funny.
Then it turns out Viagra. And I was like, oh, this is so awkward. Horrible. And I had to go in with like charts of like, not to get too graphic, but like, climaxing and everything. And it was the worst. So I think that kind of also helped though, for me to be able to talk to like my teens now about like really tense or awkward situations, because I was walking into doctors and like administrative assistants in the office and just having to talk to them about erectile dysfunction. And now the stuff I talk to my youth to, it's like, oh, this is nothing. Like, bring it.
Yeah.
It prepared you.
Exactly. That's so, but you really felt that, like, why did you transition into healthcare for a second? Like, you were pretty burnt out, right? Like, what was that? What'd that look like for you, where you were like, I need a break from education, and then doing this 6-month hiatus and then finding your way back and being like, no, this is my true passion.
Yeah. So I have been working with children from the age of infants to like school age since I was 16 years old. I worked at a daycare, then I was a paraprofessional. And so for me, it was just, I was a nanny for a little bit. So it was just a lot. And I got to the point where I was like, okay, if I'm going to raise a family, I want it to be my own. And then I realized, like, I'm really burnt out. Like, I don't want a family at all anytime soon. So I was like, I need to just kind of venture out and figure out a different career path and kind of get a break. And by doing that, with selling the Viagra, it was like, okay, this is really not for me. And I really am like passionate and good working with children and teens, and like I need to get back into that. So I just need like a reset. But I find a lot of teachers, especially now through the pandemic, are saying that they're really burnt out. And I totally understand that, because it is a lot. The profession is a lot. A lot of the times you're bringing your work home with you. So just like being a teacher and having a family is a struggle in itself, because your day is not from 8 to 3:30. You're bringing paperwork home. You're figuring out your next curriculum. You're trying to find new ways to engage with your students. So it's a lot. It's a field where you're on pretty much all the time.
Yeah, that actually kind of transitions perfectly to our next question about mental health. What was your journey with mental health throughout all of these major transitions in your life? I mean, if you've been working with children from, a young age yourself, and then going to college and having to work and take a break throughout undergrad, and then, getting married and having a child and watching her grow, it seems like your life is, all of our lives are just a consistent, transition period. It's just, that's what we're going through. So, what did that look like for you? How have you managed to like stay on top of your mental health?
Yeah. So, growing up, I've always struggled with anxiety, really bad anxiety. And it's not something that I really share to a lot of people. I know when Jessica, I think it wasn't until after our wedding that she was like, wait, you have anxiety? Like, I had no idea. So I used to try to do a really great job of like hiding it, and was almost like ashamed of it. Growing up, my mom was very anti-prescription medication. She never believed that I had anything wrong with me. I had such bad anxiety that I would throw up. Like, I'd get so nervous, so anxious that I just throw up. I'd remove myself from social situations completely. So like parties, and it was just all around bad. Like, I wasn't able to let things go. I wasn't able to relax. If I wasn't getting all A's, it was really like, my life is over. The smallest problem, my life was over. Like, I can't get through this. And then it wasn't until I met my best friend, who is a school psychologist and also struggles with severe anxiety, that she was like, hey, I don't want to diagnose you, but I'm going to diagnose you because I love you. You have anxiety and you need to get it figured out. And so it wasn't until my like 20s where I really started to look more into, okay, what is anxiety? And I remember, taking this online test to see if you have anxiety, which is like, I was like, oh, I'll just take this and see, I literally like scored 100 on the test, like checked off. And it was like, you have extreme anxiety. You need to see professional care like ASAP. And I was like, oh God. So I sent her a screenshot of it, and she's like, told you. So that's when she recommended me to see, like to start going to counseling and to start getting on meds and to get that help. And honestly, it was the best thing ever. My relationship with my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, was just completely different once I started to get on my meds. And it was a little bit of trial and error, which is something we actually talk about in my MSW classes as well. Not the first med that is prescribed to you is going to work great. And I went through probably a year of trying out different medications to see which one works well for me, which one doesn't. And my doctor was so amazing. She finally gave me this, she calls it a red light, green light test, where basically you go and get blood work and they put it up against like all the different medications that are available to you. And then the program that she has will tell you based on your blood work and the medications, this is what would work best for you. And through that, we were able to find the medication that works great for me. And I've been on that now for years. And it's really night and day when I'm off of it. When I was off of it due to pregnancy, I was a completely different person. And it really made me realize, like, wow, this, like, you forget. So I forgot. I went on the meds and then I forgot, like, wow, this is how life was before medication. And I know a lot of people are, they have different ways of dealing with their anxiety. They might not be so great on medication. They might be against it. And there are a lot of different ways that you can deal with that. But for me personally, and my type of anxiety and how severe it was, I needed to be on the meds and also do those like homeopathic like things as well. So it's not just the meds. Like I constantly have to work at it every day, which is something that I struggle with as well. I know for me personally, if I don't get to work out for at least 40 minutes 2 times a week, my anxiety is through the roof. So for me, like cardio, lifting, heavy lifting, that's what helps me reduce my anxiety. Also, before bed, I have a bedtime routine. So I try not to be on my phone a half an hour before bed. And I try not to watch TV a half an hour before bed. I'll read a book, or I'll just kind of sit in the dark and like meditate. I also use lavender oils before bed. So everybody kind of has to find what works for them and what their processes and their system is. But for me, it was definitely a lot of experimenting, a lot of touch and go, a lot of like, this worked for a couple months and now it's not working anymore. And I had to find a new way.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Yeah. First of all, just thank you for sharing with us. Second of all, I had a follow-up question about, those homeopathic remedies, about like nutrition and how it affected you as well. So you already answered that, but I also just wanted to say that it's great to touch on, the time and place for medications, because I don't know if Jess shared this with you, but I also have really bad anxiety. I have my entire life. And I'm really glad to hear that you've had a physician or a clinician who has been there to help you, and sounds like they really know what they're doing. Because for me, and sadly, I feel like a lot of college students too, I went to the like medical center on CSU's campus and walked in. That was the first time I had met with this psychiatrist. And within 5 minutes, he had prescribed me 2 different medications and doesn't know anything about me, no blood work, nothing. And that was the worst thing I ever did for myself. And maybe they just weren't the right medications. Maybe I didn't give myself like enough time, or I didn't have a provider that actually cared enough to try to figure out what it was or what my body needed. So I think it's just good for people to hear, there's 2 different experiences. And if you can find a provider who actually knows what they're doing, it's going to be huge. And it also is really important to take that functional medicine aspect, or utilizing those homeopathic remedies and exercise. For me, I'm the exact same way as you. If I don't exercise, I'm crazy. Like I'm just psychotic. I don't like, I lose it on my boyfriend, on my friends. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for sharing, because it's not an easy thing to talk about, especially when you're somebody who's just been through those situations of like crippling anxiety. So
Yeah. And it took me to other, like I didn't mention before, because I love my doctor so much. Like I'm so glad I found her. But before that, it took me 3 doctors who was like the same situation as you. They were just prescribing me. They didn't run blood work. They didn't. And that's kind of why I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if this is right for me. I don't know if I should be on these meds, or I don't feel good on these meds.
right.
And it until I was talking to my best friend that she was like, yeah, you got to see my doctor. Like she's going to do blood work. She's going to do this. So really trial and error, and don't give up on yourself. Like if you're that unhappy with how you're living your life, don't give up on yourself. There's so many doctors out there. There's going to be a doctor for you. There's going to be a med for you. Like our medical field is advancing every day. So if or, there might, if you're not for prescriptions, then there may be a doctor that's gonna hook you up with a really good like system on using oils at this time of the day or whatever. So you gotta look out for yourself.
Yes, I love that for sure. You have to be your own advocate, because if you're not going to do it, then who is? So I think
I was just going to say that. Yes, Jess. Yes.
Yes.
you're welcome.
And I think that's what really pushed me into like that mindset too, was having my daughter and being like, okay, so I'm bringing a girl into this world and the world is crazy right now. And like how she's looking up to me, like she's looking at me and watching me on how to act and how I react to things. And I don't want her to like grow up with anxiety. So right now I'm seeing a lot of like social anxiety in her when we go to new places. And it's like, I want to lead by example. I don't want her to have to go through the same thing that I had to go through and struggling for so many years. And I want to raise her to be strong and independent and be able to advocate for herself and say like, no, I don't like this. Yes, I like this. I'm going to do this. But if I'm not doing that and I'm not showcasing that type of behavior in my own household, who is she going to learn from,
Yeah. And I'm sure COVID didn't help that either with everything
COVID
going
did
on.
not.
So yeah, also
COVID did
just
not.
for other parents who are listening or maybe see these situations happening with their own kids, and maybe you just don't have access to a physician, start to assess what you can do with your children, what situations you can be in with them, getting them outside, interacting with them, what foods they're eating. What we feed our children to is such an important basis of how their neurological capacity is going to form over the years too. You need to feed your body well, just as you need to feed your children's body well too. So there are many different options depending on what you have, but I really appreciate you sharing your story a lot, because it's sadly not an uncommon one, which is the saddest part.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And so now, I mean, I know it's such a difficult topic, and you have done such an amazing job with like really owning it and really talking about it, which I think is so important. But I know you struggled with postpartum, and so many other moms struggle with this, but for some reason it's just barely talked about. And I'm just so in awe and proud of you for how you handled it and everything that you went through. So can you touch on that, what it was like going through that with friends and family, and breastfeeding? Because I know you did not want to be on any medication throughout pregnancy, breastfeeding, even if the doctor said it was safe. And so many moms go through that. So just kind of what it was like to be a new mom and experience all that.
Yeah. So postpartum depression is probably one of the most serious things that a woman is going to go through if, it does happen to her. And postpartum is not something that like picks and chooses. I mean, you look at celebrities who are coming out and saying that they struggle with postpartum. I know, for example, Chrissy Teigen, and she has all the money and all the help in the world, and she still suffered through horrible postpartum. And she's very open about that. And I think once you go through it yourself, it's something that you then become passionate about, and you want to help other women who are suffering with it, because it is such a dark place. It really is. And it's such a very scary place. Going into it, it was one of my biggest fears. Like when I found out I was pregnant and I had to get off my medications, and they always say like what mom feels, baby feels, or happy mom, happy baby. So that was all kind of like going through my head throughout my whole pregnancy, and trying to like stay calm and keep my anxiety under control. Luckily for most women with our hormone changes, when we are pregnant, our hormones kind of change. And if we do suffer with anxiety or depression, we're not struggling with it as bad throughout the pregnancy because of our hormone shift. That's not for everyone. My third trimester, I was struggling with anxiety really bad. I went to go talk to my therapist again and had a plan to work through it. She was saying that Zoloft was perfectly fine to have in the third trimester and that I should do it. But like Jessica said, I just was not, I didn't want to do it. Like, I was my first child. I was so worried. I just wanted her to be perfect. I didn't want to risk anything. I didn't want to be that like 1% that something horrible happened to my child because I did this or I couldn't handle it myself. So I struggled. And I think it was about a month after actually having Lila, actually having my daughter, I was breastfeeding, and it was hard. I mean, breastfeeding is not, and that's something that every pregnancy is different. Every mother is different. Like, no mother, no pregnancy is the same. Every woman is going to go through their own journey, their own feelings. So, even with breastfeeding, for people to push it in our society so much and look down on women for, not breastfeeding, for choosing to formula feed, it's like, it's already in your head of like, if you want to be a good mom, you have to breastfeed. And I know so many women that just couldn't, like, their milk never came in, and the struggle they go throughout that first year of being out in the park and another mom seeing them like not breastfeeding and giving their child formula, it's automatic judgment or like a stereotype that your child is not going to be as smart as a breastfed child. So you have all those pressures that, all these books and all these websites and society is forcing down you throughout the whole 9 months of your pregnancy. No one ever talks about the fourth trimester, which is literally the whole after your baby comes, it's those 3 months of basically hell. Like, yes, it's amazing. You were given this beautiful child and your body went through some amazing things, but your body also went through the process of pretty much being run over a truck over and over again for like for days. I mean, you go through the whole process of giving birth and going through all that, and your body's like, what the heck just happened? And then the hospital I went to didn't believe in a nursery, which throughout my whole pregnancy, I was like, yes, like that's great because I want my baby to be connected to me. And, I don't want to take my baby to go to the nursery. After being in labor for like 2 days, and I was just like, I just want to sleep. Like, my body is just done. My mindset is just done. Like, I just need to sleep. I need to focus on me and get me better. And I couldn't do that because it was me. It was me and my husband. And we're trying to navigate this new baby and this like new little person that I have no idea. Like, she was inside me, but I have no idea like what she likes, what she doesn't like, how she likes to be held. Like, so we're all learning this, and she's learning me too. Like, as much as she knows me, she's learning me. So the first 3 months after were the absolute hardest. There were times where I thought, oh my God, I messed up my life. What did I do? And it wasn't because I didn't love my child. It wasn't because I wasn't appreciative. So many women struggle to get pregnant. And that's why I think everybody's journey is different. But it was probably a month after that I definitely realized I was dealing with some postpartum. And my days were getting darker and darker. And it wasn't until one night where I just could not stop crying. I literally cried for 2 days straight, like nonstop, couldn't get myself under control. And I remember being up and being in my daughter's nursery, and she was like co-sleeping with us in her bassinet. So she was in our room. And I just thought to myself, my husband's got this. He doesn't need me. My daughter doesn't need me. I'm going to pack a bag and I'm going to leave. And I never, ever, ever thought or wanted to be that mom that was just like, my family doesn't need me. Like, they're going to be better off without me. So that thought scared the crap out of me. And for whatever reason, my brain was able to kind of trigger and be like, okay, you need help, Karissa. Like, this is not normal and this is not okay. And you've been crying for 2 days and you need help. So literally it was probably like 6 o'clock in the morning. My husband woke up, was freaking out that I wasn't like in the room, went into the nursery, and I was just crying. And I looked up at him and I was like, I need help. And he was like, what's wrong? Like, so I was just telling him, I'm like, I think it would be better. Like, you and Lila would be better off if I just like wasn't around. Like, I'm ruining you guys. And he was like, okay, you need help. Like, we need to talk to someone. So he immediately called my therapist and explained what was going on. And she was talking to me. And then I went to the doctor right away that afternoon. They like got me an emergency and put me on Zoloft because I was still very adamant about breastfeeding. And I didn't want to be on my normal medication because I couldn't breastfeed with it. And we found that through like my blood work and everything, Zoloft was kind of like a hit or miss for me if it was going to work or not. And one of the negatives with Zoloft, or really any kind of antidepressant, is that it really takes a month for the prescription to really kick in and really help you. Where I was at, we decided at the end of the session, I mean, my doctor was great. I was in there for 2 hours. She told me to bring my husband so that we could all make like a good decision for me. And I decided to stop breastfeeding and go on my meds because it was like I was in such a dark place and I was getting darker and darker and darker by the hours. And what I realized through like our session was that my daughter needs me more than ever, breastfeeding or not. Like, my daughter needs me, and I need to give myself a little bit of grace for what I just went through. Like, our society is so quick to push how, you know, we should just bounce right back. Like, we should lose the weight right away, and we should be able to go to work in 6 weeks. And if you think about it, your body just went through this major procedure. Like, you just grew a human for 9 months, 9 months. So why should you be expected to just push out this baby and be bouncing back when it took 9 months to get to that part? So I always tell women who are struggling, like, give yourself a year. You're not going to be back to your normal self until you've given yourself like a whole year. And for me, it really took like a year and a half until I truly felt, even on my medication, until I truly felt like, okay, like I'm okay. I'm back to being me and I'm good. And it's just, for me personally, it was amazing. I mean, that first night, my doctor also prescribed me some Seroquel, just so that I could sleep. And she pretty much told my husband, you know, you need to just take the baby for the night. And we just need to focus on Karissa, getting Karissa back to being okay. And one of my big things for my mental health is sleep. And so with a newborn, you're not getting any sleep, not like, and Lila was up every half hour. And so, you know, that night of just sleep for me, I literally woke up the next morning, looked at my husband and said, oh my gosh, I feel different. Like, it was just being on my meds again and having that sleep and feeling like a person again. It's really like, I think as a society, we should really kind of talk more about the fourth trimester. And like, I didn't even know there was a thing called the fourth trimester until I was going through postpartum. I did all this research, like for hours and hours for 9 months. And then I went to see my doctor and she's like, yeah, you're in the fourth trimester. And I was like, well, what the hell is that? Nobody about that. Like, it's just something that like I'm kind of passionate about and working with, because it's so scary. You're in such a dark place. I mean, for me to be like, my family doesn't need me, was just kind of like, I'm going to pack up and leave my newborn and just move and go to a different state and not tell them and just abandon them. Like, for me, that was like probably the scariest thing.
Thank you for sharing. I think as to women who don't have children, it's just crazy to learn about this. It's like things you can't even imagine until you're personally in that situation and going through it yourself. And to be able to say these things out loud, especially with your sister-in-law, who I don't know if you guys have ever had these conversations, is really brave. And it's just so cool because so many women go through this. And again, it's another thing that's not uncommon. And so to be able to talk about it is huge. And I also wanted to touch on the breastfeeding aspect, because as somebody who's gone through some medical training and medical schooling, I should say, my master's program, I learned a lot about, the benefits of breastfeeding versus like formula. And of course there's benefits to it, but I never considered how much society would look down on a woman if she didn't. And so that's just a really great thing to bring up. And it gets, me thinking, hopefully it gets other people thinking that though there's benefits from it, way more beneficial that your child has you and that you feel okay. And that's something that is huge for mothers. It's like, you don't have to lose yourself just because you're a mom now. That's not, you're still you. And I feel like society really is like, oh, yep, she's a mom. That's all she is. And it's cool that you're trying to like break those norms and like trying to, expand your education and learn more. And I'm just glad to see that it's helped you with, your medication has helped you and that you're able to do so much. Like you're doing so much that people without kids can't even do. So yeah, I applaud you for that. So bouncing off that, a loaded question here, we want to transition to your fitness journey now. How has fitness been a part of your life? I know you said that it's important for you to work out at least 40 minutes twice a week. So when did you first start your fitness journey? How did that look like throughout pregnancy and motherhood? I know a lot of women are afraid to exercise during pregnancy as well and don't want to injure anything or hurt themselves or the baby. So yeah, basically, how did your workouts and your nutrition differ pre and post mom life?
Yeah, that is a great question. So growing up, I've always been into sports. I played basketball, I did dance, and then in high school, I played volleyball, basketball, and softball. And I was always very, very passionate about basketball. I had a scholarship to play basketball in college and then tore my ACL and just never fully came back after that to like a college level. So I ended up going to community college instead and kind of figuring out that path, which I mentioned before. But throughout the time, I played in like intramural leagues for volleyball and basketball, just kind of stayed into the whole fitness thing. I did for a couple of years kind of do nothing. So I was done. I was done playing sports. I thought, I'm an adult now. There's not really sports out there for me. I need to just work and go to school. I ate horrible. I mean, even through college or high school, I ate horrible. And it wasn't until I was like 21 that I realized like, okay, this isn't healthy and this isn't great. And I'm gaining a ton of weight and I need to reel it back in. So that's when I started to get really into just eating healthier. And at first I was doing it like the wrong way. I was eating under 1,000 calories and I was just cardio. It was actually one of my really good guy friends who is a marathon runner. We were actually training together for a marathon. And I pretty much passed out after one of like our 12-mile runs. And he was like, well, what did you eat today? And I was like, oh, I had a protein shake. I'm fine. And he was like, are you kidding me? So he was actually the one to talk to my other friends and kind of get me on board to like, okay, if you really want to have a great outcome with your fitness goal, like you have to fuel your body. So I went on to that. I transferred to Central. And I met through like one of the classes that they offer. So at Central, I don't know if other colleges do this, but their personal trainers actually take on their fitness classes and they're able to use it as kind of like their internship. And so I found a really amazing trainer. She's also a mom and I follow her on Instagram and her name is Alessandra and she has her own fitness business that her and her husband do all online. And she talks about nutrition and fitness and figuring it all out with like being a mom and pregnancy. And she was actually pregnant pretty much around the same time that I was. So for me, being able to follow her on Instagram and see her struggling the same way I was struggling and to give tips is what kind of helped me Before being pregnant, I pretty much ate so clean, only did paleo, and did CrossFit like 5 to 7 times a week, and was like obsessed. Like I just wanted to lift really heavy things. My husband is also into weightlifting. And so we were both kind of doing the paleo thing together, which maybe is another thing that attracted us to each other. But I don't know if Jessica remembers this, but my husband and I were kind of crazy paleo, like strictly paleo. And so my mother-in-law made us our whole Thanksgiving dinner, but paleo style, just for my husband and I. And so she did that for 3 years. My mother-in-law is like amazing beyond words. The fact that she made a whole Thanksgiving dinner and then made a paleo version is just, I can't even like, I don't even know what to say to that, because that was just amazing. But yeah, now that we actually eat mom stuffing, it is really good, Jeff.
Yeah, no, I think that's really cool. I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who have heard of paleo or tried paleo. But it's cool. It's like the caveman diet is what it's called. And what I loved about you and JT's Carissa's husband, my brother, you guys so in that point in your life, you guys are CrossFitting, right? So JT is he works out with the police officers and at their gym and everything, and they're all very strong, very fit. And Karissa was doing CrossFit, and it was just a huge part and a huge passion in their lives. Like they're both jacked. Like they have the best, like Karissa can deadlift, I don't even know, I'm gonna guess like 200 pounds at this point in her life, 250, I don't even know. But so you're burning so much energy and you're eating so much. Like that was the coolest thing about your diet, was like you had restrictions in what you ate, but not how much you ate. Like you guys fueled your body. Like I remember, oh my gosh, specifically like when you first started dating JT and you guys were into this, and it was like a running family joke, because we're like, we got to make sure we have snacks for JT and Karissa. Like if we're out all day, like we're at a zoo, I think one day, and we're like, all right, well, we're going to be out for like 8 hours. Who has the snacks for JT and Karissa? Like they need to eat or they're going to get grumpy. And a few times you guys would be like getting quieter and quieter. And we're like, oh no, it's happening. It's and you guys would be like, we're gonna go find a snack. Like we're sleeping. And so I think that's so cool, is that you guys were like working so hard and fueling your body at the same time. Like this whole diet culture thing doesn't have to, it doesn't mean restrictive, which is what we preach on here. It just means fueling your body with what it needs. And you guys ate like truckers with all healthy stuff, and it was exactly what your body needs because you were so healthy.
Yeah, and that kind of goes into, so pregnancy, finding out I was pregnant. Through most of my pregnancy, I was very sick. As Jess knows, even in the 3rd trimester, it got to the point where I couldn't even keep water down. So it was hard. It was hard to navigate things, but I was craving pizza and Chinese spare ribs and chocolate chip cookies. Like it wasn't like anything weird, but I was craving so much carbs. Like I just wanted carbs 24/7 and sweets. And now my daughter, like I joke, because all she wants to eat is carbs and sweets. And I was like, oh, look at that. But working out during the 1st trimester was like very short workouts. And if I could do it, cool. If not, like there was times where I'd stop my workout and like, not to give too much information, but throw up. Like it got to the point where I was like, I'm not working out. And then the 2nd trimester, I was so sick that like I just had the energy to go to work and go to sleep. And like everything I ate, I couldn't keep down. So that was really hard. And then the 3rd trimester was the same, except I couldn't even keep down water. So I'd say throughout my whole pregnancy, like I was active. I try to get outside and at least do like a 2-mile walk every day, or even a half a mile if I really wasn't feeling good. But I was not doing CrossFit. I was not doing any type of like workout, like spinning or anything like that. And my doctor kept telling me, you can work out. It's okay to work out. Like, you're not going to hurt the baby. And that's following my trainer from college. She lift weights throughout her whole pregnancy, and her son is completely fine. Nothing happened to them. And there are a few restrictions, like Sav did mention, like there are certain things that like maybe you shouldn't do. And what I learned is like, if it brings you any kind of pain or discomfort, then you just don't do it. But there's so many other things you can do throughout your pregnancy. I mean, even just the walking. But I wasn't working out and I was eating whatever I wanted. And I kind of used pregnancy as my excuse, which I'm sure a lot of women do. Like, oh, I'm pregnant. And you see this huge belly and you're all swollen and you're like, what does it matter if I have another cookie? Like, and I did a lot of it. I did want to like nourish my child, because I was like, okay, well, I'm eating, my child's eating. So I do need to get things down, or try to keep things down in my case, that are going to benefit her. I did try, like, I wasn't just binge eating, but I was definitely eating not clean at all. Like, I was eating more carbs than I've ever eaten since high school in my life. And then getting off of that, I really just going through the whole postpartum and trying to figure out a good schedule. I started going to spin classes 2 days a week with my best friend, and I lost all my weight. Like, I remember my daughter was born in July, and by November for her Thanksgiving, I was back down to my pre-weight. And I was like, wow, like I barely even tried, you know, like I was just doing spinning for an hour twice a week. And I was just eating like normal, like what I normally ate. Like I could finally keep down meat and everything. And I wasn't like paying attention or putting myself on a strict diet, and I lost the weight and it was great. And then COVID happened, and my husband and I were like, well, we both have jobs. Like, we're both really fortunate. We're going to make a game plan to once a week support a local family business in our area and do takeout. And then that kind of turned into 2 weeks. And then I started like cooking more because I was working from home, and baking like a ton, because what else are you going to do with COVID? And we just started eating, and we both kind of started getting into a bad path of like, wow. And of course, like my husband didn't gain, like he maybe gained 5 pounds throughout the whole thing. And I got to the point where I was the same weight as I was when I was just before I gave birth to my daughter. And I remember looking in the shower and looking at my stomach and being like, wow, I look pregnant again. And I think for me, my biggest push was like, okay, this is not healthy and this isn't working. Is mentally, I started to notice like my anxiety was increasing. And I was like, well, why is my anxiety increasing? Because I'm not working out and I'm eating like crap. And like you guys mentioned before, you know, nutrition plays such a key and is so hand in hand with any kind of mental issue, anxiety, depression. Like it really goes hand in hand. You can totally tell when you're eating better and healthier food, your body and just mentally, like it's a whole different change. And so I decided to go on Weight Watchers because I'm a mom now and I don't have time to do the 5-7 day workouts of CrossFit and like my meal preps and my paleo diet and all these other crazy diets that I was doing. Is just not, where do I have time to do that as a mom and working full time and in a pandemic? And so I felt like I needed to like reteach myself some things and get back on track. Just getting back to eating, okay, I need to eat protein, I need to eat vegetables, and I need to eat fruit. And the carbs and the sweets, like you can still have them. I still have them, but it's just like, okay, like I'm not going to go crazy with it. I'm going to limit my amount, and I'm going to limit like that I'm not having it every day. So
Great. That's awesome. Yeah. I have such a passion for mental health and neuroscience as it is. And I've personally experienced that, where the cool thing about like different types of weight that you've been through in your life is it's just like a roller coaster, and it doesn't sound cool, but it's like, you know, that at some point in your life, you've been heavier, right? Like I've been heavier multiple times, and I'll get skinny again, or I'll work out. And it's just like your life changes, your body changes. It's super important. So everything I've learned is throughout my personal journey, and why I have a passion for nutrition, is because of my experience with mental health. And I had to utilize my nutrition and, really focus on what I was feeding myself and how it directly impacts your brain. And a lot of people don't recognize how, yeah, you are what you eat. Your body is, taking the nutrients that you're eating, or lack thereof, the nutrients that you're eating, but it's also feeding your brain. And your brain utilizes so much of the oxygen and carbohydrates, and you need that for energy. Carbs are good for you, people. Like, we're just like, your body turns carbs into glucose, and it is your body's preferred source of energy for your metabolism. And so that's a cool thing though about, these different diets or lifestyles. Like, we've talked a lot about like Mediterranean diets, like paleo diets. It's very similar, like to be able to utilize the balance of carbs and protein for your body. It just, you inadvertently help your anxiety or your mental health. So I could just go around in circles with it, but it's awesome to see that you're also aware, because I do feel like a lot of people aren't aware of how nutrition impacts your mental health. And that might just be from your amazing story that you've shared with us. So we're just excited to kind of put this out there for others. And it's perfect. Jess and I are like geeking out over here because it's Mental Health Awareness Month. And so the fact that you've gone through this and your story, and I know you were nervous to talk to us, but your story is great, and it's going to help somebody somewhere, multiple people. So I just want you to feel good about that too, because there's a lot of good here that people can use in their lives too. So
I mean, it's so much easier to talk about when you feel like you're killing it. It's easier to talk about that. What's not easy is to talk about when you're struggling through things, and that's when people need to hear it the most. And that's the majority. Social media portrays this really like unattainable lifestyle for moms, for anyone. And like I can't even keep a consistent workout routine now. I can't even imagine doing it, trying to be responsible for a tiny human. So how did your workouts change and your nutrition change and affect your mental health, like after pre and postpartum, and then like coming to peace with it?
Yeah, so I think like what you both just touched on, I mean, nutrition goes hand in hand with your mental health. The more you're like nourishing your body and supporting your body, the better your body's going to feel, and the better you're going to feel mentally, because you're not putting all that junk into like all the processed food and everything. You're not putting that into your system. And with anxiety and like depression, that tends to be the key of like the sugars and the processed food. And the more you have of it, the more it kind of, you start to see an increase in your anxiety or your depression. And I think for me, like, it was just kind of, I needed to learn a new way. And I needed to learn a way that it was going to work for me, for my family. And I just needed to do a lot of trial and error. And I think that's like with motherhood too. Like Jess said, there's a lot of stereotypes out there what motherhood should be. And there's a lot of books and research, and don't let your kid watch TV until they're 2. And it's just kind of like I'm such a firm believer that every woman has their own path and their own journey, and they all have something that is going to work for them or not work for them. And like something that works for me isn't going to work for my friends. You know, my schedule is very unique to me. Like my husband has weird hours. I'm also very fortunate to where I have a huge support group. Like my in-laws are 10 minutes away from me and are amazing and will help me with absolutely anything. My best friend, I'm so lucky. Her husband works the same exact hours as my husband. So like we're able to be each other's support. We also have kids the same age. So like for us, we're going through it at the same time. And I think just don't be scared to like fail or do a little trial and error. And don't be scared to say, this really works for my family, like, and go with it. You know, people are so worried about letting their child watch TV during dinner. Some days you just need it. Like someday you just need to turn on Mickey Mouse Clubhouse and make and just have a minute to breathe and be like, okay, I'm a person, like this is okay. And your child is going to be fine.
Yeah,
Like
what did people do when there wasn't like tablets and stuff? Like,
Right?
what do they just let their kids go
Well,
outside and go
like-
crazy? Like what?
that's the thing, like we're in such a technology like generation that like, yeah, it's good to kind of find a happy medium. Like it's okay to have technology, but it's also okay, like you just said, to let them run outside and go crazy. Like you need to burn off some energy. You're driving me nuts. Here you go. Like go outside and play with.
Yeah.
And it's just like you need to find what makes you happy, because when you're happy as a parent, that's going to then rub off on your child and your child is going to be happy. So like for me, I always talk to my friends like this worked really well for me, this didn't. But it's more of like we all try to figure out and like take a little bit of like, oh, this really worked, I'll try it, and then trial and error. Did it work? Did it not work? And I just think being flexible and learning to laugh. It's okay to snap, like you're not a bad mom. It's also okay to go with your best friend overnight to the beach, like you're not a bad mom. And mom guilt is like the worst thing. And it's something that I struggle with a lot. But you need to also tell yourself, I feel like you need to tell yourself, like, okay, but this is making me a better person. Like, I really needed a reset. Or for my situation with school, like, yeah, this is hard right now, but when she gets older, I'm going to have great hours and I'm going to be able to spend more time with her and be there for her. So it's like a small sacrifice. And some days are better than others, but you just got to roll with it and tell yourself, like in the morning, like, okay, like, you know, today's a new day and we're just going to forget about yesterday. I think for me, that works the best is being flexible and just going with things and not stressing or fixating on it or being like, this was my plan and it's not going to my plan, because your toddler's going to have their own plan for the day. And so just fighting that plan of what they want is going to be a struggle. So just flexibility. I mean, there's weeks where I only work out once in the week, or maybe I don't even get to work out. But those weeks I really try to focus on my nutrition. So it's just prioritizing. Like, what are you going to make today that you're going to prioritize? And if you can't fit a workout in, well, then make sure your nutrition is on point.
I am curious, what is like the most ridiculous piece of advice, like unwanted advice that you received as a new mom or throughout your pregnancy that you just were like, thanks, but no thanks, bye.
So you're gonna get so many, but for me, and part of the reason why I was so worried about sharing that I went through postpartum in the beginning was because when I told a very close family member on my side that I was struggling with postpartum and I needed help and I really didn't feel like myself, they told me to get over it. I had a beautiful child and a beautiful family, and I needed to wash my face and put a cold washcloth on my head and get over it. And for our society, you know, we want to totally just swipe it under the rug and be like, okay, like everything's great, everything's perfect. Like a mom is always supposed to be smiling and happy, especially after they just had this baby. But nobody really focuses in on what this mom just went through and what this mom is currently going through and struggling with and battling with. And for me, like, it was a huge step for me to admit that. It was a huge step for me to go and get help. It was also something I was struggling with really, it was really hard for me to not be breastfeeding anymore. And it's something I struggled with for the whole year, her whole first year, I struggled with it. And so it's just like, and then I think another one that it was great, I was telling Sav before, Jess, was when I got back from maternity leave, which is only like 6 weeks, which rattles my mind, like 6 weeks of maternity leave, and then you're supposed to leave your baby and just be back in the workforce like nothing ever happened. But yeah, some of the men in my workplace said, well, how was your vacation? And I was like, vacation? Like, what do you mean? Or you just got back from vacation. You're good. You can handle this extra workload.
You're like, I don't really remember all the frozen daiquiris and pina coladas, but if you went on vacation, like, let me know.
And like, I was thinking about that. Like, I wasn't at a beach. Like, I didn't get on an airplane. Like, most days, I was lucky if I got a shower. Like, it's not, if that's what you call a vacation. Like, there was times where my husband looked at me and was like, when was the last time you showered? And I'm like, I don't even know what day it is. Shower. And I was like, oh, so I smell now? And he was like, no. And I'm like, it's okay. I don't remember the last time I showered. Like, but is that a vacation to you? Or not being able to eat a meal, like, or you're eating a meal cold, or you're eating a meal, like, is that a vacation? Go an hour of sleep for 2 days straight, is that a vacation? So for me, it just kind of took me back. Like, that's how our society views it. Like, moms have to deal with all that. Like, cool. On top of everything else they're dealing with, on top of like just leaving their 6-week-old baby to go back to work. Like, yeah, okay. I'm back from vacation. Yeah, no.
And deal with the tools that men
Right.
are.
Right.
Oh, well, that's awful. Yeah, I was blown. She was telling me that before this. I was just blown away at the things that women in general have to deal with in the many phases of our lives. So thank you for sharing that. So really quickly, I just wanted to know what you would have done differently or told yourself differently throughout any stage of your life. It doesn't have to be motherhood. Throughout everything you've experienced, everything that you've learned, like what would you have told yourself, a younger version of yourself, or what would you have done differently, if anything?
I mean, I don't really think I would have done anything differently. I'm kind of a believer of like, it's all learning experience. And even if you're in it right now and you can't like see it, in a couple of years, it's going to be a learning experience in a way that like it either made you stronger or it made you better in some way. Like something that could be really bad also is making you like much stronger. And it's allowing you to then share your story with someone who's maybe going through it, who really needs it and needs to hear it and needs to know that like, well, they made it through and look what they're doing now, or look what they've accomplished now, or look what they have now. And it might just give someone that hope of like, I can do it too, you know, or I can get through this, I can keep pushing. For me, I just feel like, you know, everybody goes through their hard points, everybody goes through their ups and downs, but when they do that, it makes them stronger, and then it makes them that more relatable to someone else who's maybe going through a similar thing, to then we can then share that with someone and be someone's strength or be someone's like rock in their time of need. I know for me, I said my support system, and honestly, like I really couldn't do it without my support system and my best friend and the moms that have done it or going through it. So I think the only thing I would do is kind of tell myself in that beginning of motherhood, you don't have to be perfect. And it took me like a kind of a year of like really being hard on myself, and like, you don't have to bounce back right away. You don't have to be perfect, especially being in that fourth trimester of like, oh, I got to lose this weight. I can't eat the chips and queso that I want to eat. Breastfeeding is really hard, but I have to do it. Like, no, fed is best. Like, your baby's full, your baby's happy, you're happy. You want to eat the queso, eat the freaking queso. You want the cupcake, eat the cupcake. Like, your body just went through this whole dramatic thing. Like, what's a cupcake? Like, come on. So I think just trying to like love myself more and be more confident in myself and not be so scared to like hide what I went through, hide what I was feeling, and be ashamed of it would probably be my best advice to myself. But I would never regret or not want to experience something, because I feel like that made me who I am and led me on my journey that I'm currently taking. But like, you need to make yourself suffer in order to fit what society thinks you should fit into.
And that's an important part. That's an important part of this conversation we have in every single episode, is it's like, We don't want to talk about diets. I am in the field of nutrition. I have done every single diet. I have eaten pounds of bacon and butter on keto. I have starved myself. It's about a lifestyle. And that doesn't mean that like this diet has to take over your life. And I've been in points where like I'm like tiny, super jacked, like, and really restricting myself. But the happiest I am is when I'm working out, I'm eating well, and I eat this cookie if I want this cookie because that's fine. And also things that help me is it's like if for the listeners, if you're somebody who struggles and it's still hard for you to utilize intuitive eating or eat the cupcake that you want, you can make these healthier options if it helps you feel better. So that helped me a lot in the beginning. It's like I'll make this cookie with almond flour and stevia. So, and I also struggle with blood sugar, so that's a personal thing too. But you can do things that make you feel good, but you're still allowed to live your life. You can still eat these things and have fun and go have drinks with your friends. Social eating is something we'll talk about soon, but yeah, I love it. I'm passionate about this topic too. So
Yeah.
I mean, I firmly eat everything in moderation, and I've lost like 45 pounds since after my pregnancy. But I did it all with moderation. I did not restrict any kind of food. So it was just making better choices, but I never once like limited myself from a cupcake or a queso or eating pizza. Like, we love pizza in my house. We have it at least once a week. And I still lost 45 pounds. Like, you can do it. It's still possible. I really believe no food should be like limiting or restricting.
I mean, it is easier when you are married to a human Hoover and everything that you buy is going to be gone.
We never have food. Like, we go grocery shopping 3 times a week, but
I love that. Okay, so we're going to transition to some questions from viewers really quickly. I have one that a lot of our viewers are interested in, like quick and easy snacks. And so we like to ask our guests, what are your favorite snacks? Or maybe for other mothers out there, what are some of your quick snacks for your daughter that also, I don't know what her eating is like. I know that children are very picky. So, anything that you could try to get some nutrients into your child as well.
Yeah, so my daughter is the queen of picky right now. The only vegetable she will eat is green beans, and that is like a new thing for us, so I will take it. Goldfish she loves, and actually they make like vegetable goldfish. So I'll do that. She also loves protein bars, so I'll find some like protein bars for her. I personally love protein bars, so she sees me eat protein a lot. We also are really big on smoothies in our house, so she will drink smoothies. Yogurt, we're really big on. My husband and I at least have like 1 or 2 yogurts a day. So I think she's definitely watching us and she's seeing what we're eating and she's like, oh, I want that too. Just trying to find better ingredients and better options, especially in the kids' snacks. They make it so like they'll put Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse on the front of the goldfish bag, which is great. It helps. Like, they're like, oh, Minnie. But just looking at the ingredients and I think trying to find better options. I'm also very lucky. My daughter loves fruit, so we do fruit bowls. I also think like we don't restrict her with any foods. So if at night she wants an Oreo after she eats, we give her an Oreo. Obviously if she wants fruit snacks at 10 a.m., it's a no. But I always try to first give her something healthy or nutritious, and then you can have the Oreo. For me, like I said, protein bars, whey protein shakes are really great, especially being really busy at work. I'm big on fruit as well. I love to just like pop grapes and do grapes. And I always try to have like something in the fridge that's easy. So like a rotisserie chicken that I could just pick on and put on a sandwich. I make these chicken meatballs and I'll make a big batch of them whenever I have like free time. So usually like Wednesdays, my mother-in-law takes my daughter for the day and I work from home. So in between meetings and stuff, I'll make a big batch of them and I'll stick them in the freezer and a couple in the fridge. So that way I can just grab it and pick it up. I don't really have time to meal prep. So I know a lot of people are like, meal prepping is the key. And if that works for you and keeps you on track, that's great. But for me, just having a yogurt or a cheese stick in the fridge, and then just like having the mindset of like, okay, I know the Girl Scout cookies are in the fridge, but I really need to have a cheese stick right now because I've had like nothing to eat all day. Or, you know, I still have 8 hours to get through the rest of my day. That cheese stick is going to nourish my body more than the cookie. So I'm going to grab the cheese stick. It's just kind of having those mindsets of what's going to nourish you and help energize you. Fruit is honestly, I've learned fruit is the best. Like if you're really struggling and you're really sleepy and tired, fruit is the best kind for energy to give you like that boost. So usually later in the afternoon, I pick up on more fruit.
Yeah, that sugar can really, the natural sugar. That's what people think, that fruit will give them diabetes or something. Like, that's never happened. You can eat your fruit. Like, you can, you can totally eat it. So yeah, that's cool. Also, I love protein bars too. So I'm always in the protein bar section at the store. I've seen like they have kids protein bars now too, like just like smaller versions. So that's super cool. I mean, I don't know. That's something I would have wanted as a kid. I'm like,
Yeah, I mean,
little
just
version.
be careful with those, because I was looking at those with my daughter, and a lot of them advertise for like kids, but when you look at their ingredients, there's sugar and like one of the bars that we were looking at had 1 gram of fiber and 1 gram of protein, and then the sugar was like 23 grams.
Yeah.
Bar. So just because it says kids doesn't always mean it's like better or healthier.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So for this week's weekly challenge announcement, I'm really excited about this one because it's all about spreading the love. We just want you to tell someone in your life that they're doing an amazing job and that you're proud of them. It could be your mom, your dad, your grandma, a friend, coworker, someone you look up to, doesn't matter, just anyone that you're like, you're killing it and I respect you. So just let them know how cool we think they are and spread a little love.
I love that.
Yes, super necessary. So now for our quick this or that speed round. Jess and I are gonna bounce back and forth. We're gonna give you like 2 options, and then whatever comes first to your mind. Yeah, we're just gonna go through it quick. So
Alright.
I'll start. So morning or afternoon/evening workout?
Oh, afternoon, evening.
Coffee or energy drink / tea?
Oh, coffee.
I think we know the answer to this one, but comfy clothes or dressing up?
Oh, comfy.
Beach vacation or adventure trip?
Beach.
Mom's cooking or your husband's smoker skills?
Oh, are we talking about my mother-in-law's cooking?
You know it.
Oh, man. Oh, I don't know. God, guys, that's like, you can't answer that.
Yeah.
I know, that's hard. Yeah.
Can I do a tie?
Yeah.
Of course you can do a tie. Yeah, JT just got a smoker 6 months ago, 8 months ago, and he's been obsessed with it ever since. It's adorable. He's
He
like,
makes amazing things, so I fully support it. Like, I get him whatever else he needs. Like, you want that, you get it, sweetie.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Savory or sweet food?
Ooh, sweets.
Nice. Frozen or Moana?
Oh, come on, guys. This is like that's a tie in our house. I would probably say, oh, maybe Frozen. I think I might have to go with Frozen. I love Moana. It reminds me of being back in Hawaii. But yeah, I think I can like zone out to Frozen a little bit more.
Nice. Sugar or salt on your margaritas?
Sugar. Someone actually asked me this yesterday, a coworker, and I was like, oh, but yeah, I want sugar.
Yeah, same.
Lifting or cardio?
Ooh. I think that one really depends on where I'm at currently, like where my body's feeling. If you asked me before pregnancy, I would have said lifting. If you ask me now, I'd probably say cardio. Yeah.
Cole Swindell concert or Lakers game?
Lakers game.
That's great. Okay, well, thank you so much, Karissa, for sharing some topics that are not easy to discuss, a lot about your mental health and your personal experiences that are also very important. Also, thank you to our listeners for tuning in and following along. Your continued support means so much to Jess and I, and we appreciate the kind words and the constructive criticism each week.
You can find Karissa on Instagram at kled835 to keep up with her and all of her family antics. And to become a part of our family and community, join us on Instagram or Facebook at And a Diet Soda, and we will see you next week.
Thanks for listening. We hope you were able to give yourself a little love today. You deserve it.
Be sure to subscribe to this podcast and check us out on social media for weekly conversations and attainable challenges for your health.